Linda Hirsch, and this is EdCast, a program created and produced by educators for everyone interested in education. Since the onset of open admissions in 1970, CUNY has been at the forefront of seeking ways to secure the academic success of its students. Facing an underprepared student body, CUNY provided remediation courses in reading, writing, and math. In the many years since, the university has ended remediation at its senior colleges while seeking the best ways of ensuring the college readiness of its community college students. Relying on new bodies of research, in fall of 2022, CUNY marked a major milestone, announcing that it was phasing out remediation on all its campuses and implementing new education models for students in need of academic support. Today on EdCast, I'll speak with CUNY's Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs about what we've learned about remedial education nationwide and the significance of newer methodologies for increasing educational and career opportunities for CUNY's diverse student body. Coming up now on EdCast. Joining me today is Donna Linderman, the CUNY Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. She is responsible for a broad array of CUNY-wide programs, including the nationally recognized and replicated ASAP, or Accelerated Study in Associate Programs, Accelerate, Complete, and Engage, or ACE, the baccalaureate version of ASAP, and CUNY Start, Math Start. Vice Chancellor Linderman also leads several CUNY-wide initiatives focused on academic momentum, transfer success, and developmental education reform. Thank you so much for joining me today on EdCast, Donna. So nice to see you again
so
as
good
well.
Likewise.
So this is a momentous occasion at CUNY. Fall 22 marks a really important milestone because CUNY's developmental reform work has come to a point where we are marking the end of remediation at the university. Can you tell us why this is so important to CUNY and to the students?
Sure. So first, I would say that this is part of a long journey that CUNY has been on. So in 2015, CUNY had formed a developmental education task force to look at all facets of how developmental education was delivered at the university, specifically at our associate granting colleges, from how we assessed students, how we placed them into interventions to help them with their English and math needs, the interventions we placed them into, and then how they exited from them. And what we found was that vast numbers of students were not succeeding in the interventions that we had. Traditional remediation, meaning courses students took before they could take a gateway math or English class. So over many years, we realized those interventions were not helping students. Large numbers of students were placed into those interventions, and so we phased out standalone remediation, the courses students took before their gateway math and English, and in favor of those, we put in co-requisite courses where students could receive the support they need in the credit-bearing courses that they took at the same time.
Let's take a look at some of these piece by piece in just a minute, but I'd like to go back a little bit and give our viewers some context. Some people, I think, still think CUNY has complete open admissions, and so tell us a little bit about the context for developmental education at CUNY. How did it start? How did it change over time?
So it's a fascinating history, and maybe one that you've actually seen in action personally.
We've done a show on it.
Over the years. So
yes, I witnessed it firsthand.
So standalone traditional remediation courses students took before they could take a gateway math or English class could really be traced in the modern history of CUNY to open admissions in 1970.
And what did that mean? What was open admissions?
So what that meant was students that had previously not been admissible to a baccalaureate program at a CUNY senior college could enter those colleges through open admissions, and if they were determined to have need in reading, writing, and math, what they call the basic skills, they could take remedial courses to prepare them for those courses. So in the beginning of the open admission process, remediation, as we're talking about it today, really were preparatory courses to help students get ready to take those gateway courses, and were a response to low persistence and graduation rates for slightly underprepared students. So fast forward to about 1999, when the city was very critical of the university, that perhaps standards at our senior colleges were not as rigorous as they could be. There was a determination made through a task force and a report that was issued, an institution adrift, that the senior colleges, based on the decision of the Board of Trustees, would stop admitting students that had remedial need based on placement tests that students took at that time. So students who were determined not to be ready for Gateway English and Math courses, again, based on these placement tests, were enrolled at our community colleges, with the exception of a few specialized programs at the senior colleges. So that also coincided with the rise in standards in the Department of Education, where they linked high school graduation rates to college readiness standards. So, and a year later, CUNY's College Now program, which is our vast dual enrollment program that helps students prepare for college before they enter, in high school before they enter college, was significantly expanded to all high schools across the city and now serves over 500 students. So over the next, 10 years or so, CUNY was tinkering with placement levels, the types of intervention students went into, the length of them, but there was still a general principle that prerequisite standalone remediation that prepared students for these gateway courses was the right course of action.
And what do we observe about that when we looked at, said, you alluded to it earlier, what were some of the things that we saw that made the university feel, not the right track?
Right, so right around, I would say starting in about 2008, a vast body of research across the nation and here at CUNY started looking more carefully at remediation, from the assessment and placement tests to the type of math that students were going into, to the length of the remedial sequences. Sometimes students had to take multiple levels of math or multiple levels of reading or writing before they were then ready for the gateway or college general education course that they would take. So this research was blossoming over about a 10-year period of time, and CUNY was very aware of it. Some of it was actually happening right here at the university, where certain interventions where a student had the opportunity to take the credit course and get just-in-time integrated support demonstrated that students could do a lot better, all types of students, not just the most prepared students. So over a 10-year window, CUNY academic leadership and faculty were looking at this body of research and realized that kind of tinkering around the margins was not really going to make a difference. Additionally, as we looked at our own data, we realized that the students that were the most impacted by this growing body of research that demonstrated traditional remediation just didn't work were Black and Hispanic students, low-income students.
And what was happening to these students when you say it didn't work? How do we know that it wasn't working
So
for
what
them?
we saw was that students were leaving the sequences before they completed them. Even students that did go through them had much lower retention and graduation rates than students who were
They
not
were using
placed
up
in.
financial aid as well?
They were using up their
Okay.
financial aid. And because of the standards at the time, close to 80% of students that came into our associate programs were being placed in at least one remedial class, most commonly math. So over time, CUNY really started to realize this was an enormous barrier that was preventing students from advancing in their degree pursuits. And because the students that were placed in our associate programs overwhelmingly hoped to go to a baccalaureate program, we were essentially disenfranchising large numbers of students. And this growing body of research not only demonstrated that students were not being well served by these standalone remedial interventions, but in some cases, if they were placed directly into credit courses, sometimes they did just fine.
Right.
So there was a growing realization that things that maybe had made sense at one point in time no longer made sense. And so that's when our then Executive Vice Chancellor, Vita Rabinowitz, launched a CUNY-wide developmental education task force comprised of faculty, academic leadership, that looked at all aspects of how remediation was delivered at the university. And then issued a report in 2016 that said we should reconsider our placement methods, we should reconsider how we refer students to math. Everyone was, for example, was referred to remedial remedial algebra.
I was surprised that math was the bigger stumbling block than English.
Yes.
I didn't realize that. I thought writing and reading were the real stumbling blocks, but math was really.
So that's not to say that
And why is algebra, so you said they all were assigned to algebra. Is algebra the right place to put everybody?
No,
Why not?
So it depends on the major the student is going into. If a student is going into a STEM major, science, technology, engineering, math, or business, algebra absolutely is the right track
Okay.
for them. But if a student is going into liberal arts or the social sciences, statistics or quantitative reasoning is a much more appropriate level of math
Was
preparation.
that easier for students? Statistics and
So it's not a
quantitative
question of-
reasoning?
it's not a
I mean,
que-
all right, so did they pass it with greater ease?
Well, it
Maybe
was
we
mo-
shouldn't use the word easier. Did they do better in it?
It was certainly seen as more applicable, more
Okay.
relevant to the student's
okay.
major. So that was an important shift, is to consider which math a student was guided into. So if a student was not going into a track that required algebra, it did make more sense for them to have preparation in statistics, or to be guided into those pathways. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, sorry. And then the last thing I was going to say was there's also a demoralizing effect on students. If a student plans to come to college, they want to earn credits. They want to move towards their degree. If a student was cycling through standalone remedial courses, whether it was in a math class that was not applicable to their major, perhaps a remedial writing course that they had to pass before they could go into freshman composition, this had a very demoralizing effect on students.
Yeah, and I certainly witnessed that firsthand. I mean, I know that the passing of the exam at the end of a remedial sequence was really the thing that often kept students back.
Yes.
So I want to talk about that a little bit more. But let's go back then to some of the goals of reform. So we
Yes.
have this task force and they see a lot of things are wrong. So what do they want to do now to make things better? What do they think has to be done?
So, and some of the recommendations from the task force actually dovetailed really beautifully with what was going on nationally. So first and foremost, the idea of students having to take a standalone placement test that, a line in the sand that determined, are you ready to go into freshman composition or, a gateway math class based on your major? That these were not the best measures of how well a student was
What's
going to
wrong
do.
with that? What is a better measure?
So a better measure is to look more holistically and comprehensively at a student's entire academic profile. So, and simultaneously, the standardized tests were being phased out by the College Board. Because they determined they were not.
By the College Board.
Yes.
They
So
rarely phase out a standardized test.
they rarely do, but they
I understand, right.
to their credit, they realized that the tests they were administering were not predictive of how
Okay.
a student did in the class.
So what is predictive?
So looking holistically at students' high school grades, available standardized tests such as the New York State Regents that students take in conjunction with their coursework, and if they take the SAT score, existing pictures of how a student is doing academically are much, present a more complete picture of a student. So CUNY phased out its standalone placement tests and adopted an algorithm by which students' available data is run through this algorithm to determine what is the likelihood they would do well in a credit course, a freshman composition class or math course connected to their major, and if they had an algorithm score, a proficiency index score, if you will, above a certain level, they could go directly into the credit course. If they were within a certain range, they would be recommended to go into a co-requisite course.
Well, let's see if we can really explain what a co-requisite course
Okay.
is to our viewers who might be thinking, what is that? I also just want to throw into the mixer that having been at CUNY all this time, as a student myself and also as joining the faculty at CUNY, I certainly saw the many ways in which CUNY tried to adapt to the needs of open admission students. And to our credit, we were often in the forefront of what was happening nationwide, even in our developmental remedial course offerings. So we really, I think, under our leadership over the years, have been open to re-examining and questioning, and I think that should be to CUNY's credit. I mean, if no one says so. I mean, it really is a process of from the very beginning
Yes.
with Mine Shaughnessy and going into looking at the basic writers, which had never appeared on college
Yes.
campuses. I mean, to really looking at that, I think a tremendous amount of work has been done. So now we come to this new phase of what we now call the co-rec courses.
Right.
Tell us a little about exactly what a co-rec might look like in English or math. What do we mean by co-rec?
Okay, so a co-requisite course is the credit course that a student would take if they did not have any developmental need whatsoever.
Okay.
So using this algorithm that I mentioned, if it was determined that you or I might have some need in math or in English, for that matter, we would take the credit course, but with the integration of just-in-time support that the faculty member would integrate as part of the course. Now, it could be done as a recitation that takes place, for example, right after the course. So that would mean a study session where they get supplemental instruction, they go over the core concepts, with a tutor, with another faculty member, or with the very same faculty member. So it's the integration of those supports as part of the class itself, rather than a separate course a student had to take, pass an exam, and then get to the credit course.
Do students in a co-rec course know who is getting the supplemental work and who isn't?
So it really
I think
depends.
they don't always know that on our campus anyway.
It really depends. So the full phase-in of the co-requisite model was fall of 2022. So it was announced in 2019 by our then Executive Vice Chancellor, Jose Luis Cruz, and our Chancellor, that by the fall of 2022, all colleges were going to be expected to have rotated, migrated all their courses to the co-requisite model in English and math. So faculty were given significant amount of time to do this. And even as a lead up to that announcement, the CUNY Central Office of Academic Affairs was bringing in money from our good partners in the city. The City Council gave money. We generated grant funds to provide faculty with the time and space to refresh their curriculum, think about their pedagogical practices. And we had some early adopters. You mentioned CUNY being a leader. We had some people that were on the vanguard of this co-requisite model early on.
Wasn't Texas doing this?
Yes, so co-requisite is really a national reform model. Texas, California,
Baltimore, I think.
Florida, Baltimore County Community College
'Cause I went to a
developed
workshop with them, yeah.
the Accelerated Learning Project. So this was work that was really bubbling up around the country, and some of our faculty were early adopters. So through the funds that the CUNY Central Office was generating and then pushing out to the campuses, faculty had the opportunity to look their curriculum over, work with their colleagues who had perhaps done it sooner than them, so that by fall of 2022, we phased out the standalone remediation. So using this algorithm, students would be placed either into the credit course or into a co-requisite course based on their score. If a student had need in both English and math, or very, very low math scores, we do strongly encourage them to enroll in our evidence-based pre-matriculation programs, CUNY Start and Math Start, which are for students that have significant need in both areas or just in math, or our free University Skills Immersion program, which is largely offered in the summer, although there's also offerings during the academic year for students who have less need.
So there are many avenues for students to build up their skills prior to arriving on a CUNY campus if they really need all that support. But for many students, the co-rec model
Yes, and
seems to be the way to go
yes.
for them.
Yeah, and our pre-matriculation programs are offered on CUNY campuses. Students
So
are
they get the college feel
absolutely
right
yes.
away, which I think is really very important.
It's very important, and then also coupled with the placement, whether into a co-requisite or a credit course, students are very carefully guided into the appropriate math class. That's very important, so that it's applicable to the major they're going into.
So how successful has this approach been? What do we know about the success of this?
So it's really too early to tell broadly about how we're doing at CUNY, because we just did the phase-in this fall. So consider us sort of at base camp, as we like to say. We have a long road to hoe now to get up the mountain in terms of assessing the model more fully, refining it and tweaking it. What exactly should the supplemental dimension of it be? But what we do know is as part of our phase-in, many, many more students the ultimate goal of our developmental education reform is to see an increase in the number of students who pass their English and their math gen ed courses in their first year.
And we're seeing that already.
We are definitely seeing.
And I assume we want to look at persistence and retention and transfer to the four-year
Yes.
college, ultimately other
Absolutely,
measures.
but a key measure based on all the data that's been seen around the country is students passing their gateway English and math classes in their first year is very predictive of the likelihood that they will be retained, earn credit, and graduate in a more timely manner. So that is why that is kind of the delta of our Dev Ed reform. We want to significantly increase the number of students who are earning those credits in their first year. And through this phase-in over a couple of years, slowly getting to our milestone, we have seen an increase.
Now, we are probably the largest urban public university, so if we're adopting this model, then I would say that would really be something that other campuses are likely to follow, because
Very much so. There's a lot of, one thing that's been happening across the country in some of the larger states that have adopted it, some of them have adopted it through legislative mandate, and some of that has to do with the way their higher education is organized. But I will say, we're very proud at CUNY that this was done through the recommendations of academic leadership and faculty, that it was a good sense. Now, it took a while. It was over many years of looking at data, in
It's
no
not
way.
political. It's done based on pedagogy, which I think
Yes.
is really, really important. I think CUNY is always remarkable for that, as I said, going way back. I know we're going to be running out of time
Okay.
soon, so I want to ask you a few more things quickly.
Yes.
The pandemic. I mean, the
Yes.
pandemic has been a problem in education. We can argue about how much of a learning gap there is, but we know
Yeah.
there have been gaps. Has this affected any of the work and rolling out the COREC model?
So, Linda, I am so proud to say that, there's no question the pandemic was highly disruptive. It was disruptive in terms of students. We were not big in the online space, but the pivot was very abrupt, and students and faculty really rose to the occasion. But there's no question it was disruptive. For many students, learning to learn online was very, very stressful.
Learning to teach online
Learning to
was
teach
very
online is very
stressful.
stressful as well, yes. But what I can say is we're really proud that it did not deter us from our timeline. We talked about it, and in dialogue with our campus partners, and there was a sense that we should stay on course, and we did. We hit our target. We said we were going to face standalone remediation,
And we did it.
And we did it. And now, and again, we're not resting on our laurels, though. Now we're in a phase where we're looking at, okay, what works and what doesn't. What are the tweaks we need to make? And regarding learning disruption, our current executive vice chancellor, Wendy Hensel, is just launching a learning disruption working group.
And what will that do?
We will be looking at, where students are struggling, both entering students, returning students, continuing students. What are the skills that they need support in? What are the engagement issues that they have? So we're looking broadly across the university at what colleges have already put in place and creating, an opportunity for people to learn from one another, to showcase best practices, to highlight them, and then to help colleges adopt the ones that are working the best.
That's great.
So that's in its
I didn't know
infancy.
about that. I know we've talked on this show about younger children who were home and missed kindergarten, or they did kindergarten online, if there is such a thing, and how they entered, the lower grades with developmental needs. They weren't socially ready. What are we finding? Did we see anything about high school students coming onto campus if they had the misfortune to graduate and start college during the pandemic? Were they at a disadvantage compared to other groups?
So our students coming right out of high school, those that especially spent, 2 full years learning, completely online, they are struggling, but they're not the only ones that are struggling. It's not just the ones coming right out of high school. Students coming out of high school are making an enormous pivot, and some of them are questioning, should I start college right away? But they are struggling. Engagement, persistence, completing their coursework, but we're also seeing these same struggles with students who are already enrolled. So it's not an isolated group.
It's really been a big worldwide problem, if I have to say, the global implications for the pandemic on student learning.
Absolutely, we're going to see it for years, and that's why I'm very heartened by the fact that we stayed the course with our reform work, but we're also looking into learning disruption and thinking about what are the things faculty should be doing to consider, to enhance engagement, to reach students, to ensure that if there are skills they're struggling with, that can be integrated into their coursework.
I'm so glad you really pointed out how thoughtfully we do these things. I much prefer these things done by thoughtful people than legislatively, when people really don't understand what it is that they're doing. And CUNY was buffeted about by many political winds over the years. So it's really important to say that we withstood so much and really have stuck to what's best educationally for our students. We're really running out of time, so if you can just tell us quickly, what's next on the roadmap for CUNY?
So in the DevEd reform space, we will continue. We're going to very carefully look at the outcomes of students in these courses, which of the co-requisite models work best, supplemental instruction delivered by the same faculty member, by tutors, by adjuncts, by learning assistants.
The content is important.
So looking at the structure of the co-requisite courses, looking at the pedagogical practices, looking at long-term retention and graduation rates, and really getting in there and tweaking those models and putting the faculty in the driver's seat, having them assess their own work. And it's just wonderful to see, how much people are really embracing this and taking it very seriously. It's an incredible opportunity. It's unfortunate that the pandemic crashed into this reform work, but in some ways it enhances the importance of it even more. The CUNY Central Office will continue to bring data to the table. We're going to be entering into a qualitative study with our colleagues at the Community College Research Center and MDRC to look at the early pivot to co-requisite, and just to continue to be in a mode of constant improvement.
And I know from our last show, we're going to be looking at a learning mindset that helps students and faculty understand that change is possible.
Yes.
And one can really learn and grow. We're completely out of time. So thank you so very, very much for joining us today. Donna Lindeman, Associate Vice Chancellor at the CUNY Office of Academic Affairs. Been really so informative, and thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
Sure.
Great to see you.
Good. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our Ed Bites. Welcome back to this edition of Ed Bites. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, known as FIRE, has published the top 10 list of worst colleges for free speech. FIRE cited infringements on free speech on both the left and the right. For example, Penn State was cited for canceling an event with Proud Boy founder Gavin McInnes. The tongue-in-cheek Lifetime Achievement Award was bestowed on Georgetown University for its, quote, lifetime commitment to censorship and its multiple years on the 10 worst list. eSchool News reports that microschools may be the schools of the future. Often founded by parents, these schools for students in K through 12 serve populations as small as 10 to 15 students and as many as 150. They offer more personalized project-based learning, where teachers serve as facilitators of student-led projects. To encourage more New York City public school seniors to enroll in college, CUNY partnered with the DOE to develop a mentoring program called the College and Career Bridge for All. High school seniors are connected with trained college student mentors to assist in the application and financial process. Inside Higher Ed reports that participants in the program were 7% more likely to enroll in college. The artificial intelligence program ChatGPT is the current buzz in education. The AI program can respond to a variety of questions or prompts, and it is quite proficient in writing essays. Educators are concerned about its often indetectable use. Fueling concerns, a survey from Study.com shows that about 1 in 4 K-12 teachers have already caught at least one student using ChatGPT to cheat. Despite this, only 1/3 of the teachers surveyed say it should be banned. That's it for this edition of EdCast. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
We'd like to hear from you. Please send your thoughts and comments to cunyedcast@gmail.com.